The restaurant industry is brutal, and Los Angeles is one of the most competitive markets in the world. LA is home to over 7,500 restaurants and 4,000 street vendors. When measured by volume, the city is second only to New York City. But of the many concepts and cuisines within the LA restaurant scene, Mexican is the most competitive. There are more Mexican restaurants in LA than any other type of eatery, and the same is true at a macro lens. There are more Mexican restaurants in LA than anywhere in the US. The LA taco scene is unlike any market in the world, where despite the saturation and overwhelming supply, the competition is always increasing, demand never wanes, and the concentration of alternatives means that no business can really corner the market because customers can always find a cheaper and better vendor right down the street. The only way to compete is through innovation or territory. In this Modern MBA exclusive, we're going boots on the ground to see this market from the perspective of 3 owners who have each carved out their own niche with 3 different strategies. One is a humble family man who serves his neighborhood, one is a serial businessman looking to upset the status quo, and one is a 2-sister team whose ambition and ruthlessness have fueled their 17-year-long territorial conquest from a single stand to one of LA's biggest taco empires. It's 4 p.m. and Jorge is preparing his food truck Loscatoos Tacos for the night ahead as he's done every day in this exact spot for the past 5 years. Tacos are by tradition a late-night meal, and Loscatoos is open every day from 5 p.m. to midnight. His truck is located in a blue-collar neighborhood within central LA. He and his family first got started as a taco stand, where the costs were manageable and the risk was much lower. With a grill, tables, stools, canopy, some permits, and the family van, they were in business. In Los Angeles, the cardinal rule for any business is parking. Jorge settled on this spot 5 years ago after noticing that the plaza's parking lot emptied out at night and that no one else was selling tacos in a half-mile radius. The closest competitor happened to be Leo's, one of the city's most famous taco trucks. So to carve out his own niche, Jorge differentiated himself by serving what Leo's did not in charcoal grilled meats and handmade tortillas. And in LA, that was enough for people to come. After their first year, they upgraded the stand to a truck. Yet in a market as saturated as tacos, product is a fleeting advantage. For Loscatoos, it's not about being the best truck in all of LA, but rather being the best for this specific central LA neighborhood. Putting out consistent product and being available at the same time and location, rain or shine, day after day, week after week, year after year, is how Jorge competes. Yet neighborhoods constantly evolve. To maintain momentum and to keep up with the market, Jorge hopped on the birria trend at the peak of its popularity in 2020.
Un taco original es tortilla, carne, cebolla y cilantro. La birria es algo diferente. Y nosotros quisimos hacer algo diferente, algo que no había en el área. Un día salimos con la idea de, hey, ¿por qué no hacemos birria? Está en todos lados, TikTok, Instagram. La miramos en un video de YouTube, honestamente, pero a mi hermano como que dijo, ok, nosotros somos de Oaxaca, ¿qué te parece si le ponemos hoja de aguacate? Y fue cuando llegamos a la receta de la birria de res. Nos tomamos como 3-4 meses.
Loscatoos is not about offering the best birria in all of Los Angeles. It's about serving a birria that's good enough for the neighborhood and in the forms that the locals want, whether that's with instant ramen, shaped into a pizza, or topped on French fries. This principle extends to the rest of the menu, where Jorge serves the food that his neighborhood wants, even if it's smash burgers and French fries. Contrary to the conventional restaurant playbook where less is more and menus are rigid prescriptions, Loscatoos' success is derived from being as accommodating, extensible, and flexible as needed to satisfy the local late-night demand. Jorge is as much a restaurateur as he is a census taker. He must keep his finger on the pulse of the neighborhood and serve what they want to eat versus what he thinks they should eat based on tradition or opinion.
Esta área específicamente 2 años atrás era mucho latino, solo latinos. So ahora es mucho mix, americano, afroamericano y latinos, pocos, porque todos se están moviendo a diferentes lugares por lo que está muy caro. So la estrategia que nosotros estamos usando es qué es lo que le gusta a la nueva gente que se está moviendo para acá.
Loscatoos has become entrenched in this neighborhood, and there's not much Jorge needs to do anymore to pull customers. As the sun goes down, his truck is a beacon of light in the darkness. Colorful signs entice the hundreds of cars passing by on their way home. Rows of light bulbs illuminate his humble dining area. His customers are a diverse mix of working class, landscapers, janitors, families, and non-Latino professionals. Loscatoos' bestsellers are as diverse as his clientele, with the top three being queso birria tacos, steak burritos, and steak fries. Despite Los Gatos' long-standing credibility on these streets, they don't get any pricing advantage. Jorge serves on average 80 customers every night, who each spend on average $13.50 per order. This check size is in line with that of major fast casual and fast food chains. Jorge is not interested in a race to the bottom to be the cheapest, yet aiming to be the best is also not worth it. Because you can only push prices so far as a taco truck, there's little ROI to be had in executing the most unique of dishes or sourcing the most authentic of ingredients. And Jorge regularly monitors his competitors whenever he's on the road to ensure that his truck is in line but never exceeds the market. While Los Gatos is part of this neighborhood, Jorge isn't counting on much future growth through the truck, especially now that they've already opened up their dream taqueria 7 blocks down on the same street. Even though Los Gatos serves the same food at both venues, the economics are far more stable and the business is far more resilient at the restaurant. At his taqueria, Jorge faces less pricing pressure, charges more for the same exact food, stores more inventory, is better insulated from weather, and can sell high-margin items that aren't allowed on food trucks like beer, wine, and liquor. On a good week, his truck grosses $8,000, but sales can drop as low as $3,000 in the rain or cold. People are simply willing to pay more at a restaurant for service and space that is non-existent at a food truck. On a good week, his taqueria grosses $14,000 and $4,000 in a bad week. On an annual basis, Jorge's restaurant outperforms his truck by nearly double.
Food truck, la ventaja es de que no pagas tantos biles como en un restaurante. Al principio el error que estábamos cometiendo allá es de que teníamos precios muy bajos. Tú tienes, en un restaurante los precios tienen que ser mucho más caros. No mucho más, pero más caros, pero sí deja más profit en un restaurante, con el tiempo.
Despite the earning superiority of the restaurant, the food truck wins in margins. Los Gatos' truck only requires a team of 3, 1 cashier, 1 taco builder, and 1 tortilla maker. Labor is a higher cost at the taqueria, even though the operating hours and prep times are essentially the same, simply because the restaurant requires more staff to run. Still, Jorge doesn't see himself going all in on the restaurant. Giving up the truck would mean giving up this spot to a competitor. The practice of driving around and opportunistically parking at a different place every day is a relic of the past. Like with all things real estate, location is everything, and in this world, you claim territory by being the first to sell in that spot before anyone else. You must keep operating day after day to maintain your claim. This was what Jorge did 5 years ago, and as he operated for longer, word naturally traveled that this was his territory. Under this system, the quote-unquote best spots in LA with peak foot traffic like the Hollywood Walk of Fame or the Santa Monica Pier have all been claimed decades ago. There is no official directory or map where owners can see who's claimed what, as streets and sidewalks are all public property. Professional etiquette and the honor system are what keeps things from boiling over into a turf war. It would be considered disrespectful if you parked your food truck on the same block as Los Gatos, even if you weren't selling tacos. The proper form is to be at least half a mile apart, yet as more trucks and stands enter the scene, there is fewer territory left in LA that hasn't already been claimed, all of which increase the value of Los Gatos' now proven location. It took Jorge years to establish his reputation here, and if he were to move his truck to a white-collar, wealthier neighborhood, he could certainly raise prices, but he'd also be starting over.
Si tú te das una vuelta en la noche puedes ver un taco está aquí, un taco está aquí, otro taco está aquí, o food trucks una tras otra porque no hay nada que evite eso. Por ejemplo, está el food truck de la mañana, yo si yo quisiera puedo venir en la mañana y le doy competencia, pero respeto porque digo, ok, él hace su business en la mañana, yo hago mi business en la noche y es como algo que nosotros nos ponemos de acuerdo para no afectarnos. Usualmente uno cuando se establece en un lugar es difícil moverte a otro porque pues ya tienes tus clientes, tu ganancia y lo que hacen a veces no es moverse sino poner otra locación y es lo que mucha gente hace, pero así de irme de un lugar a otro costaría dinero, tiempo y te cuesta por lo menos un año para clientarte. No, usualmente la gente no ve una troca y dice, oh, vamos a comer ahí, tiene que ir como que de boca en boca.
In the years when Los Gatos was evolving from stand to truck, the LA government began to embrace food trucks to elevate tourism, lowering requirements and increasing the number of street vendors allowed. This hypersaturation, in Jorge's eyes, has made competing on product even more fragile and securing territory all of that more critical.
En Los Ángeles, hace poco, si no me equivoco, hace 2 años, dejaron de restringir muchos vendedores ambulantes. Somos tal vez una en 1000 Porque ahorita en Los Ángeles, si te das cuenta y si lo has mirado, en cada esquina puedes ver taco stand y ya mucha gente hace birria. Puede haber muchísimos, pero famosos, unos 15, 20 famosos nada. Más que nada, una troca de comida es casi 24 hours. Te tienes que levantar a las 6 de la mañana a ir a comprar la verdura, después preparar, hacer salsas. Entonces llegas acá, abres la troca, la limpias, cocinas la carne. Es un negocio que desde las 8 de la mañana hasta las 12 de la noche hay veces.
The path forward for Loscatoos is more likely a second restaurant rather than a second truck, yet his principles remain the same. Jorge takes care of his neighborhood, and his neighborhood takes care of him. "10 miles over and 20 minutes away lies Mideast Tacos, an upscale Mexico-Armenian fusion taco shop aimed at the young, hipster clientele of the Silver Lake neighborhood. While taco trucks and taquerias are all centered on providing the affordable, everyday taco, Mideast is coming at it from the opposite end. At their shop, the standard $2 to $3 tacos have been elevated to premium $5 to $6, where the conventional al pastor and carne asada have been replaced by traditional Armenian elements like falafels and kebabs. Yet when you pioneer a new concept, customers are not just going to magically walk through the front door. And when you push a price point that's 2 to 3 times higher than what most people are used to, you need merit, not novelty, to back it up. While Mideast Tacos has only been open for 4 months, owners Armin and Aram have been on a 7-year-long journey from stand to storefront. Rather than simply swapping out the protein, Mideast Tacos has revamped every element of the humble taco into a heftier, more gourmet variant with consideration to technicalities like protein to sauce ratio.
We have a beautiful yellow, freshly pressed corn tortilla that we sourced from Mexico, the masa itself. But you got this deep golden brown steak with rich Maillard reaction to it, with beautiful red onions that are diced specifically to have texture when you bite into it. There's obviously cilantro and Thai basil, and then finished with orange tumar bowl sauce and topped with sumac, which is dried pomegranates. You're getting like a rainbow of colors when you look at it from the top. It's absolutely beautiful to look at. And when you bite into it, there's a specific combination of flavors that you're getting throughout each bite that was meticulously done and constantly developed on for the last 7 to 8 years.
The steak, for example, we've tried multiple different cuts until we chose this one that we liked. The cooking techniques, the marinades, the salsas, the onions, how fine do we need to dice them? What part of the cilantro are we throwing on there and why? Why did we choose that? I guarantee you every single ingredient has had extensive research on it.
It's a fusion at the end of the day too. But a taco is a taco. We want people to not forget that the pieces of protein they're eating is still a kebab.
7 years ago, Mideast Tacos was just a pop-up. Starting out as a weekly food trailer enabled them to test markets and to identify customers through trial and error. In Middle Eastern neighborhoods, the concept had weak product market fit. These were people who had grown up on Armenian barbecue, and seeing it in tacos was nothing special. Latinos had little love for Mexican fusion, and the blue-collar neighborhoods of LA were so used to tacos as a value meal that they didn't have the interest for such a concept. It was in Silver Lake, a neighborhood with Erewhon, where over 60% of residents are college-educated and under the age of 45, and the average household income is $116,000, where Mideast found the greatest traction. Since the business lives or dies on quality, Armin and Aram have no regrets spending 7 long years developing product and processes before opening up in Silver Lake. And compared to Loscatoos' late-night blue-collar clientele in central LA, Mideast's customer base is remarkably different. It's a younger, daytime Caucasian-dominant neighborhood where people dress to impress, walk with purpose, eat out regularly, live through Instagram, and go to restaurants for leisure as much as nourishment. Yet Mideast Tacos is just one of hundreds of businesses chasing after this crowd, and commercial space in this neighborhood is not only expensive, but scarce.
Trying pop-ups in Highland Park, trying pop-ups in West Hollywood, doing catering all over Los Angeles. We had a better gauge throughout the years of what community is most open to our products. Along the way is when we came across Silver Lake. You have a 99-cent store here, but at the same time you have high-end grocery stores like Erewhon, all within a half a mile of each other. So you have 2 different demographics going in there. Unfortunately, it's hard to capture the same demographic to do all of it in one taco business.
Mideast Restaurant is situated in an awkward 480 square foot triangular space. There's no chair to sit in or wall to lean on. Every inch has been maximized for function. Any area that's not been piled with inventory has been reserved for aesthetic value. Yet when your clientele values the dining experience as much as food, you have to make it happen. To make up for the lack of indoor space, Aram and Armin have spent thousands of dollars to transform the once neglected public sidewalk into a vibrant corner. Their corner used to be an abandoned homeless encampment overflowing with litter and weeds. Rather than waiting for the city to clean it up, the two owners have cleaned up the trash, fixed up the concrete, trimmed the landscaping, and put in tables all out of pocket so that their customers can pound tacos with friends and sip ice-cold Armenian pear soda and Mexican Coke under the California sun.
With Smorgasburg and with our pop-ups, we learned a lot because we would have to break everything down every single day, load it into a truck, get there early in the morning, set things up, when we would start the fire, how we would do this, how we would do that. We have a brick and mortar location, but our pop-up at Smorgasburg was bigger than this. Yeah. So now we came into this location, and first of all, it being on such a beautiful corner and so much foot traffic was a selling point to us. And then it had these beautiful windows that people were always like popping their head in and like trying to figure out what's going on. So now we have all of that, why not utilize it?
Our perspective on Sunset Boulevard, when people walking by, we want people to see that this is our preparations of the steak, the chicken, the shrimp, seeing the golden brown meat, seeing fire come up. You know, I used to work at a Japanese restaurant where we used to do the noodles in the middle of the restaurant. So people would walk in a specific way and the noodle room would be in the middle. So they would see the noodles being made as they were ordering through a kiosk and coming around and then waiting to be seated. Food is not just food anymore. There's a source of entertainment that goes behind it. And I believe in it wholeheartedly, and I love that aspect of it now. People see what's happening in our kitchen, which is important. To see the hard work behind it, see 5 people just nonstop communicating, building tacos, burritos, quesadillas, just at a different level of execution.
We have a 3-foot grill. We would have loved to have a 5-foot grill or a 6-foot grill to be able to pump out more product. We would love to have a bigger flat top griddle and more space to do everything. But because of the location that we had to structure things in a way that not only are they good for drawing customers in, but operationally they need to work out too.
What customers see when they eat at the tables is a custom $6,000 mural. Instead of just staring at the side of the building as is, the two owners have turned this brick wall into an on-brand, artistic attraction in an effort to inject personality into the dining experience. While there's little evidence that the mural alone will ever generate enough business value to justify its $6,000 cost, it's a prime example of what it takes to succeed upmarket, where every detail and presentation, even the side of a building, is worth investing in so people can see their $5 to $6 tacos as closer to a unique neighborhood experience. Yet not everyone is down to spend $6 on a taco or $16 on a burrito. Whenever a business goes up market, whenever a company goes against the status quo, especially for everyday products, there's bound to be backlash.
We buy a cut of our steak for $11 a pound, and then we fabricate it, and then saltwater brine it, and then we marinate it. 1 pound of steak, once we cooked it over an open flame, had about 25% reduction too. And then we made a taco out of it and added all these fresh ingredients too. There are people that understand that and respect it, and are open to trying the food and appreciating the $5.50. There are other people that don't even try the product.
Jump to conclusions.
And jump to a conclusion of they're just doing $5.50 for a steak taco, which is absolutely ridiculous.
They're looking at this like substance level instead of kind of diving deep and asking like why.
And unfortunately, we had people that made negative comments about it. We had people that had tagged our murals. A mural that we spend so much time, money, and effort on. And then we had people making comments on social media saying, until you guys leave, because of all the price gouging you guys are doing, we're gonna make sure that your mural keeps on getting tagged. We're a small 500 square foot taco shop. If people really think that we're the root of the gentrification in this community, I think they need to go overlook everything.
Los Angeles. Sorry for cutting you off. We were born and raised in Los Angeles. I still work at my parents' 300 square foot restaurant in Glendale. I come here at nights. I'm at 15, 16 hour days. Autumn's at 15, 16 hour days. We don't have the luxury like that, you know what I mean? This is constant hard work. We're trying to do things that are actually good for the community. We're employing multiple people and we pay people well. We make sure that everybody's taken care of. And I think we're doing a damn good job representing the city of Los Angeles. We're not trying to sit there and price gouge anybody. We're trying to do good business, we're trying to serve good food, and we're trying to represent the city of Los Angeles and then some. We believe this concept's worldwide.
From the standpoint of margins, Mideast Tacos' food costs and labor costs are consistent with that of Jorge's, but with relatively higher spend on overhead. In this regard, the small storefront is a blessing in that there aren't many tenants who would be able to use the space as effectively as Armin and Aram have. It's in the average order size in which the contrasts in positioning are magnified. Customers spend on average $26.50 at Mideast Tacos per order, which is more than most conventional, sit-down full-service restaurants. Based on their first few months of sales, Mideast Tacos is projected to gross 7 figures in revenue in their first year of business as a restaurant. It's an open question as to whether or not this momentum will last. Even with years of experience and refinement, Mideast has to fight against novelty and being shoehorned into just a one and done. Beyond product, they have a PR team that helps with marketing, Aram is always shaking hands with customers to build personal connections, and their social media is always flowing with content to drive awareness with the out-of-town tourist as much as the in-neighborhood local. Aram is a serial businessman, and Armin is a seasoned restaurateur. One focuses on numbers, while the other obsesses over product, even when he's not physically at the restaurant.
Yesterday alone, I ordered our food twice. One for lunch, one for dinner. I need to understand if whether or not both lunch and dinner service, the guys are able to keep up with that constant demand. You know, there's things I had them tweak on in the morning and tweaked in at night. So there's specific holding methods that we have to hold our protein at. There's specific consistency and viscosity that our salsa roja needs to be at. In the last 2 months, I've ordered our food at least 100 times. I spent thousands of dollars under different aliases just to make sure that we're at a constant high and we don't lose that quality of product.
For example, our papas, our homemade cottage fries, they were getting soggy whenever they would travel. We started looking at some of the other boxes that vendors use for their fries, and we didn't want to do a bag. So we decided, what if we start venting our containers? And then we started looking for containers that had vents in them, and we couldn't find them. So we thought, hey, let's take a hole puncher and make our own holes. We've probably bought at least 14 or 15 different hole punchers in the last 2 months of different size holes that it makes or different qualities until we came to a point of this actually works.
We're still in the hunt of getting our product to where it needs to be, which is at 100%.
There's never a point that we'll go back and we'll be like, all right, we're doing this right. It's constant research and development and improving, because if we start getting complacent, we both know that's going to be where the business starts dropping down and tanking.
While Jorge's businesses are in an opportunistic symbiotic relationship where he adapted to his neighborhood over time, Mideast's approach to business is the opposite. They're prescriptive, they're pushing to customers and looking to create a market that currently doesn't exist. They've only been able to lower risk by fleshing out their product over years of trial and error. Loscatoos, on the other hand, is deferential. Jorge simply caters to the market, stays in the middle, and expands the menu to whatever trends so he can pull customers towards him. But is it possible to capture a sizable portion of a market as saturated as LA Tacos without having to reinvent product, slash prices, or grab headlines? Tacos Leguera has done just that from the shadows. To the outside, they look like a string of random taco stands. They're not branded, there's no big signage or fancy logo, they're not viral, they have no website, they barely speak English, and they're not mentioned on anyone's list of top 10 tacos in Los Angeles. But on the inside, Tacos Leguera is an empire who owns more territory than anyone else, they're fueled by a fiercely loyal and consistent customer base, and they're run by two ambitious, secretive sisters. Rosio and her sister first moved to California over 20 years ago. Their father ran a taco stand back in Mexico called Tacos al Pastor Leguera, and they brought his recipes, name, and flame-grilled al pastor to Los Angeles in the 2000s. The market was small then, and there was little competition. The two sisters started selling tacos on the street as a way to continue their family legacy and to give the Latino community a taste of home. Because they've lived through the LA taco scene from the very beginning and seen the market develop over decades, Rosio and her sister have a deep market knowledge that only few individuals would ever possess.
Había muy pocas loncheras y como que el que se ponía vendía mucho porque todo el mundo busca comida mexicana, ¿no? Y bueno, era muy fácil poner un puesto hasta cierto punto, o sea, aventurarte a ponerlo en la calle y era casi seguro que vendías, ¿no? Así la comida no estuviera muy buena. Hoy, a lo largo de este tiempo, yo creo que la competencia ha sido bastante. Ya hay hasta salvadoreños haciendo tacos, guatemaltecos haciendo tacos, ya no nada más es el mexicano. Gente que viene a buscar trabajo y se enseñó, aprendió el oficio y puso su propio negocio. Y ahorita yo creo que si tú ves, en cada esquina, por lo general, encuentras un taquero.
Tacos Leguera serves traditional $2 to $3 Mexican tacos. It's their attachment to tradition that has allowed them to flourish year after year while remaining offline from the digital world. Every stand features their specialty al pastor, which is equal parts attraction and quality control. That's not to say the sisters haven't made a few tweaks over the years, but at the core, it's the market that has adapted to Leguera over time rather than Leguera adapting to them. And because they've been in this market for so long, they can understand demand even by ethnicity.
Intentamos y se abrió con el objetivo de recordarle, sobre todo al paisano, al mexicano, lo que es estar en su país. Nuestro mercado más fuerte ahorita, bueno, en un principio eran los mexicanos, como te comento ahorita, híjole, la gente morena viene por sus burritos, les encantan los burritos, el asiático viene por el pastor, los hindús por el pollo, entonces se ha diversificado mucho. Nosotros lo que hemos cambiado y nos hemos adaptado, por ejemplo, hacemos el quirotaco, cosa que pues antes no, el taco mexicano va con tortilla y ahorita la gente por cuestiones de salud o las dietas keto, entonces ya lo consumen sin tortilla. En cuanto a las salsas, creo yo que he estado en México y aquí la gente come más picante aquí que incluso en México, entonces las salsas de aquí son más picosas. El queso, el burrito es algo que en México no se acostumbra tanto, sin embargo aquí en California sí, bueno, es algo que nosotros adoptamos, ¿no? Nos adaptamos a las necesidades del cliente. Si alguien llega y te pide un burrito vegano, pues se lo hace sin carne, ¿no? Pero en sí tratamos también de conservar lo que es la tradición del taco mexicano y sobre todo del pastor, que es nuestra especialidad. La diferencia es que nosotros damos el taco del pastor del trompo a la tortilla. No bajamos la carne ni la cocinamos en la plancha. Está cocinada en su horno, en las piedras.
It's one thing to be a first mover, and it's another to be observant enough to maintain success amidst a competition. Even as demand ramped up and as saturation intensified, Leguera to this day is an empire built exclusively on just stands and the occasional truck.
Pero la inversión de una troca es mucho. Mira, si de por nosotros fuera, tendríamos puros puestos, la verdad. Que hay lugares donde definitivamente no puedes poner un puesto porque te quita la ciudad, porque te quita el policía. El mexicano y la gente prefiere llegar a comer a donde tú estás viendo qué te están sirviendo, cómo lo están preparando, a que solamente por una ventanilla te pasen tu platillo.
No one enters the taco scene without her knowledge. She even knew of Mideast tacos and the price points that Armin and Aram were pushing in Silver Lake. But the real secret to Leguera's success is in their territory. This taco stand tonight is right next to the USC School of Medicine and a public hospital, and they've been on a conquest over the past 17 years to occupy the best spots in the city, all while adhering to the honor system.
Creo que en lo que nos fijamos mucho es qué tan transitado está el lugar donde nos vamos a poner, que haya espacio suficiente en la banqueta para los peatones y para podernos instalar sin invadir espacios y que haya donde estacionarse. Pero creo que la estrategia que más utiliza mi hermana es su corazón. Ella se para en un lugar y dice, aquí mi corazón dice que aquí, y ella ahí se pone. Nosotros por lo general nos fijamos que no haya más competencia. O sea, no se trata de opacar a nadie, ¿sí? ¿Sabes? Es de brillar sin opacar a nadie.
While this is the diplomatic answer given on camera, Rosio gave a more unfiltered look off camera into just how aggressive they built and held on to their empire every day over the past 17 years. They lock down their territory by blanketing neighborhoods when possible with stands that are no more than 10 minutes from each other. There are times where they'll even arrange their stands a block from one another to signal to any competition to stay out of their land. In their mind, it's better to compete with themselves than to compete with someone else. Yet this was the extent to what Rosio was willing to disclose, and we can only piece together the rough shape of Leguera's empire based on the stands that we could find online. While the competition for territory is at the fiercest inside the city, Leguera has expanded by occupying territory on the outskirts of Los Angeles, around major highways and universities. In some ways, this strategy is as much defensive as it is ruthless. If Leguera doesn't take that land, then their competition will. They add 2 stands every year and then adapt each stand's offerings to that neighborhood. For example, they'll make handmade tortillas at stands in Latino-centric neighborhoods to win over Mexicans from Oaxaca and Puebla. But for this stand next to the public hospital, they don't need to go that extra mile given the heavy non-Latino crowd. Providing a consistent product and customer experience at scale is something that not even McDonald's has been able to get right for decades. At Leguera, every stand must be self-sufficient and performant every night, day after day, year after year, in order for their empire to last. Every taco stand is governed by one universal system and manned by 3 workers from 4 p.m. to midnight every night.
Primero que tiene contacto es el pastorero, el que le ofrece lo que tenemos. La segunda persona es el planchero y ya cuando el cliente pide es el que le entrega al cliente. Y por último la cajera, que es la que cobra, ofrece las bebidas y bueno, ya el cliente se sirve sus tacos como quiere. Creo que como en todos los negocios lo que es más complicado es el aspecto humano, ¿sí? Porque, bueno, todas las personas somos diferentes, pensamos diferentes, sentimos diferentes, entonces nosotros tratamos de que siempre haya un ambiente de compañerismo, siempre haya una lealtad hacia el negocio y compromiso hacia el cliente y el negocio. Y creo que lograr eso en las personas no es fácil y sobre todo enseñarlos a trabajar el estilo de Tacos Leguera. Porque cada negocio tiene su estilo, pero si tú te paras en una taquería de Tacos Leguera, va a ser lo mismo que si vas a la lonchera, que si vas a otra locación, siempre vas a tener lo mismo. Mira, creo que esta compañía se ha enfocado mucho en apoyar a la gente que viene a trabajar a este país. Cuando llega la gente y piden trabajo, ellos mismos después tienen más gente de su misma familia y bueno, se les da la oportunidad de trabajar. Cuando llegas aquí sin documentos y sin forma de trabajo, tenemos gente que te puedo decir que en sus países son abogados, manicuristas, o sea, tienen otras profesiones. Sin embargo, pues no hay trabajo más que de esto y se enseñan. Si entra una persona que no sabe absolutamente nada, tenemos como puestos, escalones, podríamos llamarle. Lo primero es saber manejar un cuchillo para evitar accidentes. Aprenden a picar carne, después aprenden lo que es la plancha, a darle al cliente, ahora sí que un taco debe ir bien calientito, ¿no? Calentar la tortilla, cocinar las carnes, en cómo se deben de cocinar las carnes, cómo se deben de manejar la carne cruda, la carne cocida. Y ahora sí que el último paso ya es enseñarlos a taquear y a hacer el pastor. Entonces, afortunadamente hemos encontrado, como te comentaba, personal leal, que como tú los enseñas, tú les das la escuela, se quedan con nosotros y eso hace que mantengamos un nivel de calidad.
The average Leguera customer spends $17.50 on their order, which is right in between Loscatoos and Mideast Tacos. The average Leguera taco stand grosses $445,000 a year, and their entire portfolio combined grosses $7 million a year, potentially even higher if they own more than the 15 stands that we could find online. And business to date has remained exclusively in person. Leguera is an empire today, but Rosio is aiming for a dynasty. Jorge is a humble family man who follows the wind, has no strong opinions, and takes care of his neighborhood so that his neighborhood takes care of him. Armin and Aram are serial businessmen and restaurateurs with the vision and passion to invest nearly a decade of their life and countless millions to create something new. Rosio and her sister were first movers, but had the ambition and ruthlessness to stay at the top. And these are just the stories of 3 owners out of the thousands of taco trucks, restaurants, and stands that are in the trenches fighting to hang on to their turf in a market as saturated and competitive as Los Angeles.